but we are meeting for the last time for now. Hopefully in the future we will have more opportunities to meet and talk. Today we are going to have some resource sharing from Mary. She is going to talk through a couple of really good free websites that are also available in Kazakhstan. We already checked so that you can go to these websites and you can find resources that can be used for STEM and English teaching. And so I'm going to turn over hosting to Mary so that she can share her screen. Hi, Mary.
Good morning.
Have to find you on the list of participants.
I think I can just claim host.
Oh, there you are. On more. And then make host. Change host.
I am now the host.
You are now the host. You are
all right. So like MaryTheresa said, good morning or good evening for you. Let me share my screen. Why is it not showing me how to share my screen? Because it's in the wrong place. Okay, so now, good evening and welcome to our webinar. For some reason, okay, sorry. Welcome to our webinar. Today we're going to talk about some internet resources that are available for STEM and English teaching, more specifically for K through 12. And all of these resources come from the United States, so they have a very US kind of focus with, I guess you would say, like with the cultural understanding, but I still think that these would be very valuable for you. Okay. So before we get started, I want to give you some things to consider with educational resources that are available on the internet. The first thing is that if you just type the words educational resources in Google, you will get 1 billion responses, and I'm not exaggerating. If you type in STEM educational resources, you come up with more than 400 million. This is way too many results to be helpful. It's just too much information. Some of the resources are significantly better than others. The ones I'm showing you today, I feel like are very beneficial. And the last thing is that some resources claim to be free, but in fact, they are not free. They will charge you to download or print or use the materials. I find that very frustrating. So all of the things I'm going to show you today are completely free. There's no hidden fees. I wanted to point out that there's common browse functions on most educational resources, and certainly the ones that I'm going to show you today. But I wanted to point out that the subject might be different from what you might call it. So for example, you might call it English or ESL, but the website might call it language arts or literature or languages. So if you don't find it immediately in the resource I'm showing you, look for other things it might be called. And also in the grade, as in grade level, You might be able to search by individual grades, for example, first grade, second grade, third grade, or you might have to look for groupings. So, for example, early elementary or middle school or high school. Okay. So let me see if I can mute whoever is not muted there. Doesn't look like it. Sorry. Okay. The first two materials I want to show you are from nonprofit agencies. The first one is PBS Learn, and the other one is Khan Academy. And for some reason, I have a hard time saying those two words together. Okay, so PBS Learn. PBS is Public Broadcasting and Education, which is radio and television in the United States that is sponsored by donations. So they provide these materials that's very comprehensive. They have lesson plans, they have materials, they have activities in all subjects, and they're multimedia, meaning that there's video and audio from the US. And I'd just like to show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is PBS Learning Media. And as you can see, just from the first page, they've got a lot of resources that they're suggesting right now to you. Here's the browse, like I was telling you. So if you look up at the top, it says subjects and grades. So we can click subjects, and this is what I was saying, that sometimes the subjects are just going to have a slightly different name than what you might be accustomed to calling them. And if you look at English language arts, you can see that there's a lot of different subjects. And if we click on grades, you'll also see that these are not out as single grades, they've been grouped. All right, so I'd like to just look at the subjects and go to, what was it I looked at yesterday? High school algebra. All right, so here we have algebra for high school, and you can see that it's, once you get into it, you can separate it out by grade. You can separate it out by type. So what kind of material are you looking for? Videos, interactive lessons, interactive in general, lesson plans, media, audio, etc. All right. So that was actually not what I meant to show you. Okay. So what I'm changing it to now is early elementary, and under the subject, under discipline, I'm going to language arts. Okay, and again, we can choose the type of thing we want. So let's go to lesson plans. All right, so these are lesson plans that have been created often by specific stations within the United States. Okay. And here's an example of one. This is about how to identify characters in a specific story, and the story is called Anansi the Spider. And you can see that it has the lesson overview, why is it important, all of the information you need as the teacher to be able to do this. Then it gives you the procedure. Sorry, the procedure is included in this one. You can share it directly to your Google Classroom as something you might assign to the students. You could also assign it or share using this button, which would give you an email link or you could save it out to Facebook or another place. And then if you just want to see it for later for yourself, you can save it as a favorite. And if we go on down, you can see that it's got media resources, it's got handouts, it's got a rubric, it's got how to do the lesson, and lastly, it's got an assessment. So I just really thought that this was a really good resource for finding materials that would enhance your class. So not take over your class, but give you things that you could provide to the students that are multimedia and or interactive, and you've got the entire thing for what you need to do to present it to them. All right, the next resource I wanted to show you is called Khan Academy. This is a nonprofit, and what they say is they provide free online courses, lessons, and practice. I really like Khan Academy. It has sort of, trying to think of what you would call them. It has actual courses that you could assign to the students to take. It also provides homework help and teacher materials. And just like PBS Learn, it has all the subjects. And I'd like to show you what it looks like. Here we go. Okay. So as you can see, this is, it says that it's for every student, every classroom, and they promise real results. You can create a profile so that you can log in and save information within Khan Academy. You can save it out and send it to the students or to the parents, or put the link onto whatever learning management system you're using. So if you're using Google Classroom or Moodle or some other learning management system. All right. This one starts its browse by the person's job. No, what the person is. So they could be a learner, teacher. This could be for school districts or for parents. And we're all teachers, so we're going to go there. Oh, sorry. That's where you have to sign in. All right, so let's look up here at courses. I don't know who's annotating, but please stop. All right, so in courses, you can see that there's a lot of courses available in just about anything you can imagine. This is the one where I wanted to look at Algebra 1. Okay, so this is an actual course that you could assign to the students, or you could ask them to work on it at home. And it's very much like a textbook, but it's interactive with media. So if you look here, if we click Origins of Algebra, it comes up with a video that's going to talk us through the origins of algebra. After that, we can go to the actual lessons about this topic. So if we close that, if you look over here on the side, you can see it tells us what the topics are going to be, but then it also gives them quizzes. And they need to receive, I don't remember, maybe it says 70 or 80% on the quiz to be able to unlock the next set of lessons. I really like this. I think that it gives the students a lot of freedom and power to themselves for how they want to interact with this material. Okay, and I don't know how to show you this without logging in, but as the teacher, you can go in and just assign a specific lesson to the students. So you don't have to assign a whole class. If what you really want them to focus on, for example, is linear expressions, you can just give them those assignments or one assignment out of that. Additionally, you can ask specific students to work on lessons or even a whole course if they're really struggling and need more help understanding this material. Okay, that's Khan Academy. The next two sets of materials I'd like to show you are from US government agencies. The first one is from NASA, and that's our Space Administration. And the second one is the Library of Congress. Okay, this is one of the first STEM websites I ever looked at, and I am embarrassed to admit that I had never looked at anything for that before last year. And I was just really blown away by the amount of information that they have prepared for STEM engagement. So again, in their educational resources, they have lesson plans, materials, activities, and it's multimedia. So I'd like to show you what that one looks like. Okay, so this is the NASA website specifically for STEM engagement. It used to be called NASA for Education. They changed the name. And you can see we can browse by topics for students or for educators. Well, again, we're educators. We can browse by grade level, and again, they have put that into groups instead of single grades. We can browse by types of activities, and we can browse by subjects. All right, so I want to look at, what was it? I think it was a teacher guide. Yes. Okay, so what I clicked was I wanted to browse by teacher guides. And I looked at this one yesterday and I was quite impressed. So this is a teacher guide for whatever this is, the X-59 quiet supersonic flight. All right, so let's click that. Okay, so it's for a lot of different grade levels. It has multimedia, lesson plans, and activities. This is the introduction page to give you an idea if that's what you're interested in showing the students. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me show you what I just clicked. At the bottom, you can see there's a link for the learning module. Okay, so this is the learning module. So it explains why you're looking at this. And then it starts giving us ideas of how we can use these materials. So for example, in engineering and design challenges, we can look at noise or wind tunnels. And it's got both an educator guide and a student guide. All right. And here you can see under the student guide, it also tells us what grades this would be appropriate for. So this one is 6th through 8th grades. We have STEM learning activities. Our first one here is seeing sounds, and that is for grades kindergarten all the way through grade 8. Let's see what else. It also has at the bottom videos that are available about this activity, and these videos are included in the instructor guides, but you could add them as a separate thing. It also gives you some ideas for literacy skills, and here's an example of an assessment they've provided that you could give the students to see if they've understood what they read or what was talked about in a video. So one thing to bear in mind with the STEM engagement is that the topics are more specifically STEM oriented. Although, as you could see, that they've built in some literacy activities for the students to do things like read and show comprehension of what they're reading. Okay. So one of the things that really impressed me about this web resource is that it is not simply about space exploration. It's about all kinds of things, all sorts of STEM, including environmental science, like they have a unit on wetlands, which is swamps. So I thought that was interesting. I really like this resource. I'm not sure what else to say about that. Okay, the next resource that I wanted to show you, I'm sorry, I'm getting a text. Okay, it's not a problem. Is the United States Library of Congress. This is our national library, and its website provides a tremendous amount of learning materials, especially for using primary sources. And what we mean by primary sources are things like pictures and books that were written at a specific time period. I was impressed with their primary source sets. So I'd like to look at the Library of Congress. Okay, so here we are. This is their main page, but if we scroll down, you can see where it has information for teachers. So here we are in the teachers. This is just the overview of the kinds of things that are available. And here on this side, I'd like to show you classroom materials. So it has a lot of kinds of materials for you, including primary source sets, lesson plans, presentations, activities, and collection connections. I'd like to show you the primary source sets. You can see that this has a particularly US focus. So that makes sense because it's from the US Library of Congress. And I know you're probably saying, well, why would that be interesting? I think that there are a lot of topics in here that could be appropriate and interesting beyond the United States. And the first one that I looked at was this one called Children's Lives at the Turn of the 20th Century. All right, so you can see that in this teacher guide, let's open that, it's a PDF. This is available for you to print out for the students. It also has suggestions for what you might do with it. It has some additional resources, and it shows you the primary resources that are available within the Library of Congress that you could use with the students. I quite liked this one. So it's also listing these primary sources on the first web page. I'd like to show you one of the pictures, a couple of the pictures here. So this picture is called Just Kids, and on the Library of Congress page itself, you can find out more information. This is from about 1910 in the United States, and you can see that these are children that may be coming home from school, or they may be finishing their workday. I thought that's very interesting to point out, perhaps to students, that the United States has not always been a very rich country, and it has not always been, it has not always had a lot of labor laws, especially regarding children. Okay. So that's the Library of Congress. This one might be more focused towards English and history teaching than STEM resources. All right, the last thing I want to show you today is, this one builds on what MaryTheresa talked about last week with preparing to teach distance. Google has a Teach from Home guide, and it talks about kind of specifically how you might accomplish this thing, because it's really overwhelming. I was really overwhelmed when I suddenly had to teach from home, teach distance. I didn't have access to my office. I couldn't go to the library. I wouldn't see the students face to face. So it is a guide, and it also provides a lot of ideas for how to accomplish distance education. But remember, anything from Google is going to have a Google focus. So how we would connect specifically with our students using the Google tools like Google Classroom. Okay. All right, when I prepared this, it took me a lot longer to go through than it just did. So that's my webinar today, and it's only now half past. So I'd like to open up the I'd like to open this time up to questions that you might have about any of these activities, or, since this is our last webinar in our series, about any of the webinars that we've had.
Thank you, Mary. I know you just touched the surface of those resources, so I know that was a really, really quick visit to those, but I'm glad that we were able to curate the ones that we know the information is free, and we know the information is from primary sources. So we know that it's good information. It's not looking good, but really not good information. So thank you very much for doing that. So do we have any questions or comments? Oh, one new message.
Sorry, everybody, I accidentally unmuted all, but I've muted you all again. So if you have a question specifically and you would like to ask it verbally, please unmute your mic. Otherwise, you can type your questions or comments in the chat. Yeah, I know we do spend a great deal of time surfing the net to find information, and it's just overwhelming. There's just too much. So the 5 resources that I showed you today are all available 100% for free. Yes, you do need time to look through these websites. Yes, they're all free.
Yeah, we could not take the time that you need to look through the websites away from you.
No.
Because you know your students and you know your students' needs and you know your students' level. So those sorts of things are the things we couldn't take away, but at least we could give you websites to go to that would give you free materials and give you good materials.
Mm-hmm. The question here is, do we need to register on these websites? The answer is you can, but the materials are available without registering. But if you want to, for example, have the students complete a course using Khan Academy, you would need to register, and it is completely free. And you can ask the students to do the same. Oh, yes, I think this is a good question. How can we use effectively these materials in teaching English via STEM? I think that one thing that you have in all of those STEM resources is that they're in English. And you, as the English teacher, can look through those materials and see what the student would need to understand this reading or this listening or video. And you could work with your STEM partners in your school to use these materials effectively. I hope that answered that question.
Can you send your presentation to the chat?
I can do that.
Yeah. We also will be, we're very excited because we're within 2 weeks of having the website of materials available. And we will, again, once that is completed, we will send the link and a flyer out in the same ways that we have been communicating with you to advertise these webinars, so that you will also have the materials that have been created by 100 Kazakh STEM and English teachers through this project, and you will have access to all 8 of the webinars that we have done this summer. So we hope that the website will be useful to you, and it will be a place you can visit over and over, because this webinar will be there, the PowerPoints will be there, and you will be able to hopefully use it as a resource to move along and move forward with the trilingual initiative.
Yes. So I just added this particular PowerPoint as a Google Doc available to you in the chat just now.
Great.
But just like MaryTheresa said, this PowerPoint and this webinar will be on the website that we're building, and we are within weeks of having it ready to go. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I do think these resources will be very helpful. I know that I've started using them myself. I love them.
And I think that it's important to remember, I know that we showed pictures and connections in the Library of Congress that were related to maybe English and history and that sort of thing, but it's the Library of Congress. You will find any topic you search there,
Mhm.
and you will find resources there that are, you know, actual, what is the word? I can't remember the word.
Primary sources.
What is it? Primary source. That's it.
That's all right.
It's early in the morning and I haven't had coffee yet.
Yeah. The Library of Congress says that it is the largest library in the world. And what I showed you today was just education resources that they've put together. So this is certainly not all that is available. There is a lot more available. Yes, I just shared the presentation in the chat. So kind of scroll up in your chat and you'll see it.
Are there any more questions or comments? We very much appreciate you all taking the time to come together with us for these 8 webinars. We have really enjoyed connecting with you. But if there aren't any more comments or questions, I think we should probably say goodbye and hope that we will have an opportunity to see each other again. Thank you so much for taking your time.
Oh, just a second. Before we stop the meeting, somebody just asked, is STEM education popular at schools in the United States and Canada? I'm not sure about Canada, but in the United States, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. We're trying to work it into all the curriculum, not just like biology, but biology within English classes.
Thank you very much. It was very useful and impressive. Yes, so many information for every subject. It was very useful for us. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, you know us. We are trainers. We try to be useful. We do not want to have to do something with you that is not useful for you.
Right.
We know you are teachers. We know you work very hard. We are teachers. We work very hard, and none of us has any extra time to waste it. So we are trying to be very useful.
Right.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Yes.
And you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.